When is the last time you saw your own golf swing on camera look different? When is the last time you saw a real swing change actually start to show up on the golf course? I'd be willing to bet you there's a lot of you that are sitting there saying, my golf swing has looked the exact same for the last 20, 25 years. It hasn't made a change. And I've been through countless hours of golf instruction and all of these top name instructors. There are three main reasons why you continue to struggle with that ugly looking backswing of yours. And I know exactly how frustrating it is. You go out there, you still see that reverse pivot, you still see your head moving all over the place, you see that you're not making that full body turn that we ask you to make all of the freaking time. And on top of that, you still see the club laid off or across the line. You just want to get the takeaway and the backswing checked off your list. But there's three things that are holding you back from doing so. Today, you and I, we're gonna help you resolve this once and for all. We're gonna talk about what those three things are, but more importantly, what you and I are gonna do is we're gonna stay out here and we're gonna start the processes of building a new backswing together. And I'm gonna show you exactly how tour pros practice and how you're gonna get 1% better every time you step out onto the range or in your simulator or any time you take time out of your day to work on this game that's so frustrating. So the first and most overlooked reason as to why you continue to struggle with building your backswing of your dreams really starts from one of the most boring features of the golf swing, and that is your setup. I see way too many people struggle with having a ball position that's not correct or having their weight favoring one side of the ball or the other. I see lots of people with way too much knee flex or way too much roundness in their shoulders. And those are just small bits of nuance that go into a really good setup that make it impossible for you to be able to move your body in the correct order. You need a setup that's going to get you into a position where you can create movement from. And the correct kind of movement, dynamic movement, using those three forces that we have to generate in the golf swing in order to be efficient. So my big suggestion to you all that if you've not worked on your setup, we're not going to be making today's video about the setup alone. That would be way too long of a video because there's all kinds of nuance that goes into it. My suggestion to you is stop what you're doing, go watch one of my setup videos in the description below, get comfortable and acclimated to all of the key components that we look for, how the pressure is through your feet, weight distribution, knee flex, neutral posture. Get that stuff into a good spot, and then you can bring your booties back here, and then we can start working through the rest of today's program. You got it? Okay, good. Reason number two is probably the most common thing that I deal with on a day-to-day basis that affects the entire swing shape, and that is the load process of the golf swing. The load process is what we call our takeaway and backswing here at MyGolfDA. And a proper load process really is centered around weight shift first, body turn second, and the small hand and arm functions third on the list. And so many of you get that order incorrect. You start to move the golf club from your hands and your arms. You take your lead arm and you start to push the club around your body, or you start to take that trail arm and you start to fold it up really quickly, and guess what? Your brain is definitely responding to the muscle tension signals as you're feeding it, but more importantly, what it's responding to is the momentum and inertia that you're putting in the golf club. When you start to swing the golf club around with your smallest muscles, like your shoulders, your hands, and your arms, well, that momentum and inertia is pulling your body away from the target and it's pulling you into rotation. And you feel like you are making that full turn. But what you really did was you loaded up your shoulder girdles really tight and you started to get your arms to fire first in the downswing sequence, which is a great recipe for you to be powerless and a great recipe for you to be an inconsistent ball striker day in and day out. And the third reason why you continue to struggle and why you don't see real swing changes ever showing up in camera is because you haven't learned how to practice properly. What we do at MyGolfDA is we don't just help you get started working on the right things at the right time, is we teach you how to practice like a world-class player. We teach you how to go out there and try to get 1% better every time you practice, because I know this process of swing change is not as sexy as the golf instruction or the marketing world that surrounds it. We're immediate satisfaction driven. We want to go out there and we want to see the ball fly. And yes, you can start hitting golf balls on the sooner side. I've seen a lot of people go out there and build these really great golf swings. They know how to get it into that on-plane position. But the minute you start putting it to the test is when it starts going back to the pattern that you've been fighting to get away from in the first place. Now, why does that happen? Well, that happens because you haven't trained the subconscious properly. Your conscious mind is what matters the most, especially early on in this process. You want to be consciously connected to what I'm about to teach you in the second half of today's video. And if you can do that and you have a good practice program in place, you have a good instructor or coach that helps you understand when it's time to put the foot on the accelerator or introduce some variance training or take the foot off the accelerator and hit different golf balls or hit foam balls in this process, then you will actually start to see a real impactful change once and for all. You're not going to look at the camera and say, my golf swing looks exactly the same. You're going to say, my golf swing actually is looking and performing the way that I want it to. All right, so in step one, this is going to be considered kind of your warm-up for each one of your practice programs. This is where we're going to work on the weight shift and the body turn aspect. And what we're really trying to do here is, ultimately, we're trying to get our body to make a good full turn, but we're going to be trying to create good separation between our hip line and our shoulder line. We want to get to about 90 degrees of shoulder turn and about 45 degrees of hip turn going back. So we're going to be creating about 45 degrees of difference between the two. Now, in order to do this properly, you need to understand what's going to rotate the shoulders and the hips, and that's your core. But we want to make sure that we don't have anything restricting us in order to be able to make this movement happen. I know that I talk a lot about being, anchored to the ground. We want to feel good and stable. But if you want to turn properly, you want to make sure that when you start your golf swing, that you shift a little bit of weight over to your trail side, and then you start to turn your core. The objective here in step number one is to make that good full shoulder turn, but also to feel that load into that trail hip, that trail leg. And we want to do that without our head moving all over the place. The head in the golf swing is going to move about 1 inch to 1.5 inches max off the golf ball. It's not a ton. We don't want to see a lot of big vertical drop of the head, and we certainly don't want to see any sort of big vertical movement in the upward direction at all when we start to load. If you see a small amount of downward head movement and about 1 inch to 1.5 inches of lateral movement when you're going through this warm-up, you nailed it. But more importantly, what we want to do is kind of focus on the correct procedure to be able to feel this load take place. And this is going to feel pretty foreign to a lot of you because you haven't really been able to experience what it's like to load into that trail hip the right way. So what I want you to do is I want you to go ahead and take your setup, and I want you to imagine that you're holding a golf club first, okay? I want you to have a golf ball down on the ground that your eyes are going to be focused on. And from this position, I just want you to cross your arms over your shoulders, okay? Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use our belt buckle as kind of like the reference point for our center of mass. And if I take my belt buckle and shift it in behind the golf ball, ever so slightly, so it's about a 1/2 inch shift or so, what I'm going to do is now I'm going to start to make sure that my lead side of my body becomes very relaxed. If my weight's on the trail side of the golf ball here, then I want now the muscles that are in the right side of my body to start to work to help me turn. Now when I turn, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this trail shoulder in a down and depressed position, and I'm going to pull it as far back behind my head as I possibly can towards my spine, and I'm actually going to try to increase my knee flex as I do so. You're not really going to increase your knee flex. It's just a way for us to be able to stabilize your pelvis and start to feel all that stretch up through the glute, the quads, the hamstrings, those muscles that are going to help us create the restriction in the lower half. So what we're going to do is we're going to do about 20 reps that allow us just to create a little shift and good body turn. Focus points are getting your weight to your ankle joint, feeling like you're increasing knee flex, and turning your core as much as you can without your head having a lot of downward movement or vertical movement. If you can do that, then you're cooking with some salsa and you're ready to move into the second step here. So let's go ahead and knock out 20 reps together. We're going to take our setup. Eyes are down where the golf ball is. Center of mass is going to shift in behind the golf ball here. My weight's underneath my ankle joint. Now I'm going to keep my head nice and still. I'm trying to feel like I'm increasing that knee flex on the trail leg. And I feel really, really tight and loaded up right now. So knock out 20 reps. Get yourself warmed up. You want to start out slow and then build up into what your normal backswing cadence would be as you get to that 20th rep. So we're going to shift. My lead side of my body is nice and relaxed. This trail shoulder is going back towards my spine. I'm trying to increase that knee flex with my weight underneath my ankle joint. Now, when you look at that from a down the line perspective, you're going to see that I don't have a big window between my legs. You can see that as I'm finishing off my turn, my hips look very, very stable. And that's exactly what we want, is we want the hips to load up and slow down very early. Because why? Well, because that's what we want to start our downswing. That's the key for step number one. Start slow and gradually increase the pace in which you do this stuff. Now we're all warmed up and we're ready to start making this a real takeaway and real backswing. And this is where we start to add in our troublemakers, our arms and the golf club. because I don't like doing a lot of reps without the golf club in our hands, because we have to make this whole situation realistic, if you will. But before we jump into that, it's important that you understand the hand and arm functions, what they really are and how small they are. And each one of these hand and arm functions is considered a variable. When I say a variable, that means it can be player dependent. How much elevation of the arms, how much flexion, what the wrists and forearms do in space is going to be dependent on the person's grip and what sort of shot shape they want to have. But a good way to kind of sit in the middle of the road with this is to understand that if I were to take my setup, my arms during the takeaway and backswing will elevate slightly. So this is elevation. My trail arm will flex slightly, and my wrists and my forearms will rotate ever so slightly, and they will start to set. Wrist set is that kind of that middle point between hinging of the wrist and cocking of the wrist. So if you were to go to your address position, you can grab any golf club out of your bag, okay, and you were just to elevate your arms to where your elbows were kind of at the base of your chest. Flex your trail arm slightly so that your lead arm still stays passively straight, and let your trail wrist kind of move into that set position. Now what I can see is the golf ball is just kind of underneath where my lead wrist is. And if I hold this position intact, I shift my center of mass in behind the ball, and then I turn fully like I was just doing, well, you can see that I've just moved into an elite backswing position. I did that by learning that elevation, inflection, and a little bit of wrist set were the only functions that my arm should have had in the first place. And so what you're going to do in step number 2, after you've warmed up the body, is now you're going to warm up the creative juices in your brain just by getting a good feel of where the arms are in space at the top of the swing. I want you to feel where the arms are, feel where the club is. I want you to kind of take a snapshot of that in your brain as you go through these reps. 20 reps, knock them out. It's going to look just like this. Set up, elevate the arms slightly, flex the trail arm, let the wrist set. Okay, your arms should be relaxed right here. It's not a tense position. Okay, now shift into your trail side. Try to feel like you're increasing that knee flex and pull that trail shoulder behind your head. Okay, that's 1 rep. Take your time and do it just like I am. Okay, I see the ball kind of underneath my lead wrist in this position. Trail wrist is set. Center of mass shifts in behind the ball. Turn. Now, what I feel at the top of the backswing is actually different than what I've been feeling when I swing the golf club. I feel something very different in my lead arm. My lead arm actually doesn't feel pinned across my chest. So make sure that when you get up there, you're compartmentalizing what you feel. So it looks pretty cool, doesn't it? Brand new backswing position, but a backswing position that has the body feeling loaded. If you lost any connection to what we did in step number 1, as you're working to get your arms in the club in that great spot at the top, then go back and go through step number 1 again. There's no reason to cut corners and skip these steps and not be able to get out of this practice session with that mantra of, I'm getting 1% better today. Now, as you guys have heard me say many times before, is that the golf swing is not about positions. It's about how we create movement. And I see a lot of times people struggle to get the new backswing or the new takeaway to show up on camera while they're hitting golf balls, is because they haven't learned how to move through that position in fluidity. I like to fix the backswing position not only by giving you the roadmap like I just gave you in steps 1 and 2, but by giving you something that you need to do after the fact that's going to tie back nicely into your DNA. And when we get into that good backswing position at the top, as we start to near the top and we get into that good full turn position, what should we be doing? Well, we should be starting to unload. We should be starting to shift our weight over to our lead side. And we should be, at that point, getting ourselves really prepared to be able to slow the body down and let the club release. We're not going to get into all that stuff today. This is about the backswing. But in order for you to be able to get this to light, you're going to need to start to move through that position. So I'm going to show you exactly how to practice it now. We're going to do exactly what we did in step 2, but we're going to quickly come down from that position, back down to an address, and then we're going to work back up to it, and then we're going to start to swing through. So I'm going to kind of move the golf ball out away from me here, and I'm going to take my setup, okay, and we're going to do this for the rest of the session here. So I'm going to elevate the arms, flex, okay, set the trail wrist. I'm going to shift center of mass in behind the ball. My lead side is nice and relaxed. I'm increasing flex and I'm turning. Now I'm going to come back down to address, and I'm going to go right back up to that spot, shift over to my lead side and swing through. Now, when we swing through, I don't want you in kamikaze mode here, where you're trying to hit the golf ball over that mountain like Uncle Rico throwing a football, okay? I want you working at a speed where you know that you're feeling the same things that you felt with your body, kind of seeing the positions in your brain that you just rehearsed, and now you're starting to take that into a shift back over to your lead side. So a simple way to think about it is when you get back up to the top, is just shift all of your weight to your lead ankle. We're not gonna be talking about all the dynamics that go in the downswing. That's for another video, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and take our setup, elevate the arms, flex it, trail wrist set. Okay, you don't want tons of flexion here, just a little bit. Okay, from here, shifting center of mass and behind the ball, turn. Okay, feel everything. Back down to address. That's 1 rep. And I'm gonna do that for the next 60 reps. That gives me 100 very high quality reps that I've done in a session. And periodically, what I can do is, let's just say I'm gonna hit maybe 10 balls in this session because I'm starting on a brand new pathway. I'm gonna, every 3 or 4 good sets that I do, I'm gonna try to do it with the golf ball being present. I'm gonna put it on a small tee. We're not worried about where the ball goes. We're worried about taking those feels and those visuals of the swings that you created, having a camera set up, and making it look exactly the same when the ball is present. You should not care early on in the process of swing change where the golf ball is going. You should care more about getting the golf ball in the way of those practice swings. That's gonna help you be a much more disciplined, more diligent practicer when it comes to making a real swing change. And over time, as you start to get proficient with these reps, what you'll notice is that, yeah, you may not be hitting it great at first, but it starts to kind of feel a little bit more natural. Some of the tension comes out of these movements, and you're starting to hit the golf ball better and better each time you go out there. That's a better way for you to be able to get that 1% better mentality to actually show up on camera so you can get some of this stuff checked off the list once and for all. You got it? Okay, good. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. Get out there, start practicing hard. If you need any help on a drill of this nature, or you need something that's a little bit more customized to your lifestyle and your practice, the ways that you like to practice, then come over to My Golf DNA. Sign up for a free membership, take a look around. I work with students of all skill sets, and I train them the most important things when it comes to getting better at the game of golf. That's how to build a safe and efficient golf swing that's matched up perfectly to your DNA.